I'm Vikki Barnes. I'm a clinical psychologist and I specialise in positive psychology and happiness. So the bulk of my work is with organisations who want to embed some mental wellbeing practices into their organisation and help their people to thrive and flourish and be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And over the years, I've worked in the NHS and with the Virgin Group. That's the majority of my employed work. And then a year ago, I became self-employed and I founded the business which is called Positive Wellbeing, and that's what I do now. So I get inspired by people quite regularly, which is quite nice, I think, because I think there's always something really intriguing about everyone's story. And if you're open to hearing that and hearing them, I just find humans really fascinating, which is probably why I do what I do, and why you put yourself through so many years of training to become a clinical psychologist, I guess, researching and understanding the science of human behaviour. But the older generations inspire me a lot, and I think it's because they've been through so much and they've got these wonderfully colourful stories to tell, and they've got years of experience of dealing with setbacks, and they can offer us very wise words about how to interact with others, how to resolve difficulties, and what's important to get caught up on and what simply isn't worth it, not the time and energy that we can spend worrying about things. And this question is making me reflect on, I spent a bit of time in the British Virgin Islands offering mental health aid to survivors of Hurricane Irma. It devastated the islands and it caused a lot of grief to the people there, but I don't think I've ever felt more humbled and inspired than I did speaking with those people about their experiences of living through such a huge natural disaster, what they went through, separating families, destroying homes, obliterating jobs, and the steps that they took just to begin to rebuild their lives and their homes, and a sense of community. And they shared food and water and resources, and they helped each other out a lot. But most of all, what inspired me was their attitude towards it all, because I've never come across before or since people who've been through such tough times yet maintained such optimism and hope, and they just appeared to be inherently positive, and I was in awe of that. It's such a lovely question. I would say to my younger self that your vulnerability is a wonderful thing. It's a strength, and there's no need to be afraid of feeling or expressing vulnerability to other people. And I tell myself that someday I'll be doing lots of reading and research into vulnerability, and that my closest relationships and my work would thrive because of it. And I just let myself know that everything will be okay as long as I'm just me. It's allowed me to be more authentic about myself, because I think that people try to be a certain way, especially in business, setting up my own business. I've just absolutely been inspired to kind of just be myself, and I'm very open to talking. Obviously, I'm a psychologist, so that kind of goes with the territory, but I also just think that people are at their best when they're showing parts of themselves that are vulnerable, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and I am just trying to do that by sometimes saying I don't know, sometimes saying I don't know what I'm doing, sometimes saying I'm still learning, I haven't got it all figured out. And I just think that that's a really human, normal. I used to work for quite a big national organisation, and part of my role there was to sit on the Diversity, Equality and Inclusion Steering Group, alongside other people who were particularly passionate about embedding positive practices into the organisation for those reasons. And I found it really fascinating, because we all only have our own way of seeing the world, don't we? So our own lens through which we view everything that happens around us, and it's sometimes called a mental map. And we can't help it. It's developed right from our early years, but it's built upon through our whole lives. And I teach this a lot when I work with companies, because I believe that whilst we might not be able to truly step into someone else's shoes or live someone else's life or go through what they've been through, and there's a lot to be gained from understanding things like unconscious bias, which is the name for all of those biases that we hold without even realising it. So being aware of this is the first step, I think, and then talking about it is the next step. And ideally, we'll all be open to remaining really curious about our own lens or mental map and our own unconscious biases. And for me, this enables us to communicate better, empathise more, and flex and adapt our own styles, our language, the behaviours that we put out there to enable, you know, ourselves and others to shine and be their best. We've got the 9 protected characteristics under the Equality Act, which include age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex. And I've been flying the flag for some time now about personality type, because I think that, you know, if at all possible in the future for it to become a protected characteristic would be amazing, because I've often seen and experienced people being treated differently because of their personality type. So you know, they're an extrovert or an introvert, or whether they lead with their head or their heart. And I'm sure this sounds really bizarre to some people, but I'd love it if all personality types were accepted and celebrated, because people are amazing in their own right, and the very fact that just because we're so different and unique, that should be celebrated. So that's my own personal view, and I hope that kind of that creates a movement and that catches on. Crikey. Well, I've had a lot of fun and I've done some pretty amazing things in my life. So there are many moments that I'd love to relive, and imagine if we could do that, wouldn't that be wonderful? There are of course many moments I wouldn't want to relive too, and I suppose that's normal. But my initial thought goes to a time that involves 2 things that are really important to me, so family and my work. And my parents attended my graduation ceremony when I became Dr. Barnes, and I don't think that you can replicate the faces of 2 people who've had such an involvement in your life from the start, who are so very proud of what you've achieved. And you know, the doctorate was a blooming hard slog, I'll say. But that day was a day that I'll remember forever, and the feeling of making these 2 people who mean so much to me so proud just meant the world. So top tips for wellbeing and happiness is the bulk of my work, so I need to choose one. So the first one I would say in terms of juggling busyness and happiness is slow down. Pause, stop, step away, take those moments to just be, get away from the task at hand, get away from the stress, breathe, smile, think about something lovely, calm your body and mind. You know, we know that mindfulness is really good for that. But just notice your surroundings, ideally outdoors and in nature, of course, because there's lots of research to say that that's really beneficial. And allow yourself some peace and calm. So our minds need a break just as much as our bodies do. And our bodies obviously get to rest when we sleep. So we need to take the time to create those moments for our minds too.